Hey everyone, Uri for Gorilla Poker. I'm gonna keep going where the last video left off, so I won't bore you guys with too many details. We're jumping back into a session which I played kind of tilted, and I'm going over the hands and the thought process and trying to help myself get back into a winning mindset and spot all the times where I make what I think are mistakes, which is, generally finding a reason to make the high variance play rather than thinking things through and making what I consider the best play. So that being said, let's jump into the footage. I won't bore you guys with a long intro again. First hand, I have 6-7 suited in a big blind versus a cutoff open. I think this is a hand I mostly 3-bet, but I decided to call because I want to be able to check raise ever since I made the check raising course. So you'll see me probably cold calling more often than GTO for that reason. And villain bets 1/3 pot. I'm definitely gonna check raise 6-7 suited there. And he calls and we get the king of clubs turn. This is definitely a bad turn for my range. Something I talk about in the course, but when you're thinking about your turn strategy, you do shift it depending on who the turn card hits or misses. So this is a turn where you could sometimes bet, sometimes check 6-7 suited. I don't have a strong preference. I guess, me personally, I'd probably be looking to check it more often than not, or like half the time, but definitely a spot where you could use some kind of randomizer if you don't have any info on your opponent. You could also think about timing. Like, how quickly did my opponent call the flop? The faster he called, maybe the more likely he doesn't have a very strong hand. Now what I decide to do is overbet the turn, which is the sizing I want to be using if I keep betting, because presumably I'm polarizing my range a lot. I'm not going to keep barreling something like ace-9 on the king and get a quick fold. So worked out, but was it a good play or not? Again, you have to judge it in the context of the entire session. It's definitely the more aggressive of the possible choices, but I think it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Here I open ace-queen in a hijack, get called from the button in the small blind, and get a jack-7-3 two-tone board. Ace-queen has nice properties for c-betting these boards, this kind of board. I don't think I'm supposed to three-way with a cold caller to just c-bet very often at all. So I check, which I like, turn 7 of diamonds. Interesting turn. So the situation is the button is probably not very strong having checked back. And small blind cold calling ranges are often very pocket pair heavy. And here you see this guy betting 1/3 pot. Now, if he's very pocket pair heavy, his line fits with something like, 9s, 8s, 6s, whatever, which is just going for protection. And it's very tempting for me to take my ace-queen and raise. It's a very theoretically bad play, but with some more information, I'd probably go for it. Probably like going for it. But will tilted Uri go for it is the question. I have lost quite a few big pots in this session so far, so I might be on the more conservative GTO side, and you guys can see me playing around with a bet slider, and I do decide to go for it, which I like a lot. I think, at lower stakes, when someone looks like he's turning his hand face up, he probably is, so you can go for these now and then. Not every time, obviously, but yeah, I think it's a good play. Meanwhile, we have queen 10 suited in a small blind 3-bet against quantum key. And he folds, obviously always 3-betting that hand. I already see a hand that just shows how rusty I am. I have king queen offsuit UTG versus a cutoff 3-bet, and in my head is like, is this ever a 4-bet? Now I really want to take like a big club and club myself over the head. How could this ever be a 4-bet? It's you 4-bet bluff from the bottom of your calling range. This is nowhere near the bottom of your calling range. It's a very easy fold. I think want to quickly confirm that for myself, so I'm not being very silly. 4-bet UTG versus cutoff, and yeah, king queen off is never ever a 4-bet, and just the fact that I'm thinking about this shows that my head is not in the right place, because once you understand how 4-betting ranges are constructed, it's very clearly never there. Okay, meanwhile, pocket fours, button versus small blind against Bomba, who's actually, if I'm not mistaken, a guy I've played up to 25, 50 and 50-100 as well. I might be mistaken, and it was a while ago. So 4s on 10 deuce 5 versus a small blind cold calling ranges are kind of tricky. Like I said, they're supposed to have lots of pocket pairs. You don't get to range bet as often as you'd like. And my default against, at this point, this guy's an unknown to me, even if we've played like a year ago or so, is to play a bit more conservative versus a small blind, not have a very aggressive c-bet strat. And in that sense, 4s will probably check back a lot. I would have liked to see myself checking back. Instead, I quarter pot, which it's alright. Nothing wrong with it. Turn ace, good card to probably barrel 4s on with a gut shot and a bit of blockers. And you get this cool effect where, he might call king jack of diamonds or pocket 3s at I beat or something like that. So I'd probably like to bet turn. Then we get the deuce river, and now we have to check back. We still beat like king queen or something sometimes. Yeah, I would have kind of liked a bet turn. And we see jack 10 off, way too loose, something to take note of in terms of how this guy plays, but played fine post flop. Meanwhile, on another table, I have king 10 off, suit BVB. I already called the flop versus a third pot. I don't think that bears mentioning too much. Opponent checks. Again, king 10 off. You could go for both options. You could stab or check back. They're both perfectly fine. I think in terms of like the hand properties, it's more of a check back hand. When you have a jack, queen, or king with a 10 in your hand, you don't need as much protection because, let's say he has king 7, I have the king. So it's good to probably check back more with a hand that has a jack, queen, king, stab more with like a 10-9, 10-8, 10-7. And yeah, just having the king is really good for checking back because my opponent, c-bets presumably all his king X, checks all of them on a turn, and I really want a king to roll off so I get some extra money against those. Stabbing is fine too, of course. I'm just talking frequencies and reasonings, but you could find a reasoning for stabbing. I don't mind it too much. So here I go quarter pot, which is, a sizing that fits with me stabbing fairly wide. River 3, at this point, no play other than checking back king 10. And I run into ace 5. Which is well played by my opponent. Don't think there is too much to do there. And in a way, my turn check back saved me money, but that's not the correct way to think about it. And even just the fact that I'm saying this, such bad results-oriented thinking, you have to take the club and like bad Uri. Like, who cares that it saved me money? We need to make the good play. Is it a good play or a bad play? Don't be results-oriented. Results-oriented is always a tilt talking. Like, sure, it saved me money here. It would lose me money elsewhere. Whatever. Who cares? I think the play is fine. Like I said, it's not the perfect hand choice to stab, but I like stabbing, so I think it's okay. Next hand, I have 7-5 of clubs on the button. Open, get the queen 8-3. Rainbow board, definitely a board I'm going to just c-bet a lot. 7-5, nice hand to do it with, so I don't know what sizing I go with, but any sizing works, and we get the fold. Meanwhile, open ace-king and get 3-bet. Here you guys see something of a technical mistake from my opponent. Given he's 84 deep, I think he should probably 3-bet a bit smaller than he did. It's like a small nuance, but it does add up. So what you guys are seeing is me 4-bet, and I am thinking about the 4-bet size. Like, were he 100 deep, I would 4-bet a bit bigger than this. You should adjust the sizes a bit based on these things. Okay, so we get jack 10-8, and as this hand is happening, for what it's worth, we have another hand where I open kings from MP, get 3-bet by the button, I 4-bet, and he click back 5 bets. So we're going to have 2 big pots at the same time, one way or another. Very, very bad for your tilt situation. No matter if you win or lose. It's pretty bad. But to walk you guys through my thought process and what I think, again, offline, I think kings has to stack off this trick of like min 5-bet, which my opponent is doing against pocket kings. Some guys do it with aces, some guys do it with ace-king, so you think they have aces, whatever. I mean, kings is stacking off once at 4-bets, there's no question about that. Ace-king, on the other hand, is pretty tricky because we have a board that smashes my 4-bet range a lot, and I'm gonna have lots of hands like, on the one hand, aces, kings, queens, jacks. On the other hand, ace, king, ace, queen, ace, jack, king, queen, king, jack. So everything hits, and ace, king is certainly a bluff, but in the context of what do you do with ace, king, you have to realize that, like, how good the board is for you, how much equity your range has. And I wouldn't be shocked if this is a board where you just range shove, just shove everything and move forwards. And, you know, my opponent's gonna have king, queen, and ace, queen, and ace 10, and a bunch of hands that are in tough shape versus a shove. Even something like king, jack, though it's probably calling it, it's not in good shape when I shove against my range. So I'd imagine I shove. We'll see in a second what I actually do. And I would like to quickly run this hand through a solver to see if I'm way off or not. Maybe wrap the video up with that one. So I shove, get the quick fold. Kings runs into aces. We run it, looks like 1, 2 times. I lose both. Tilting. I mean, it's nothing but it's tilting. When you're tilted, it's tilting to get kings versus aces. But really, it's absolutely nothing. Like, these are the kind of spots where you should think about reciprocity, I think it's called. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but you know, this is money that's going from me to someone and from someone back to me. Like, kings versus aces is going to even out over the long run. So it's completely meaningless, but somehow it still hits you where it hurts sometimes when you're looking for results, for comfort. So yeah, let's quickly. Again, I don't have ranges for these specific games saved. These are not the games I usually play, but let's quickly see what Peel likes out of position and whether or not I'm way off about just shoving a ton of your range. So here's what Peel likes. Peel likes with this SPR to either shove or check. The board's too connected for small bets. It doesn't shove entire range. That would be too much. A, because we have hands like suited aces in a 4-bet range, which you don't want to shove. And B, presumably because there are not enough overpairs to make up for all the ace, king, ace, queen, etc. So my play is fine as a play, but it's mixed, and I could also check. And were I to check, you know, if my opponent made any play, ace, king is always a hand in a 4-bet pot that can call or raise or fold. They're all okay, and this spot is no exception. When I shove, my opponent, kind of like I expected, has to fold king queen, has 0 EV with something like ace queen, and needs to call the rest of his range pretty much, including ace 10 and king 10 and king jack. And I think you might get random folds from those sometimes, probably not from this guy at this SPR. So yeah, I think that the play was okay with ace king. Nothing special, but the spot did not play as aggressive as I imagined, and the reason is 4-bet range here has hands that I was kind of not accounting for, like ace 5 suited, I guess, being the main culprit. Okay, so I will wrap up here to not make this too long. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.